Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I'm Amanda Parker. Enjoy this episode of Girl Awakening in all of its vulnerable sacredness.
And remember to subscribe and share. Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I'm Amanda Parker. Enjoy this episode of Girl Awakening in all of its vulnerable sacredness.
And remember to subscribe and share. Hello and welcome to Girl Awakening YouTube. I'm Jo Hendy.
And I've just got serious now.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Good morning, Amanda.
Morning, Jo. Here we are.
Exciting times again.
You're sharing
I
something
am.
very special with us all again today.
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
getting to receive,
A gift.
yes.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope he brings it. Sorry.
We've been talking a little bit already, and the humour is floating
Yes.
through the airwaves, and there's just a lot of joy always when we're in this space with this person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, it's I'm allowed to joke because it is my husband, and
You're sharing your husband.
I'm sharing my husband with you all. Yeah, this is a great
We're doing a
for
little.
me great podcast because Trevor and I talk a lot about everything. You know.
We've done part one.
Welcome, Trev.
Yes.
Where
You
we
can talk
talked
now.
about our
Hang on,
journey.
welcome, Trev.
Thank you. Oh, that's me. I'm here.
Yes.
I'm here. Yes.
Yes, we have done part one.
Yes. Yes.
Mm.
And
About
we've
your
been.
awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jo and I have been on a crazy, amazing journey for a long time.
Mm.
But God, it's heated up lately.
Yeah.
Like it's got really, really interesting with convergence of what we're both going through at our age.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the transitions we're going through, but also at our conscious evolution, like what stages we're evolving through, and as a relationship, but also how that converges with the planet and what the planet's going through. So,
Yeah.
and I do a lot of sessions with men and women, and lately I've had a rash of men, not a rash,
A
but
man
a
rash.
rush.
A man rash, not a man
Yeah,
rash.
and we'll get into it a little bit more soon, but had some really interesting experiences around helping release and understand and get behind the energy of anxiety and what it actually is. And I think people will be pretty blown away by some things we might talk about today, because anxiety, it's this mental illness thing, no, it's connected with the shift we're going through on the planet right now. So yeah, so anyway, I'm back, Jo. I said something to Jo the other day after a session. I went, oh my God, after a few in a row, 4 men in a row with a very chronic parts of this, and then all of a sudden I came through and it was like the universe had sent these men to me as much for me as it was me being there for them.
Yeah.
And I've always found that's where the magic happens, when it's equal. And I literally came out and went, oh my God, I could see. Before I was blind, now I can see what this actually is. And it's a huge relief because I want to help people. And when you're sitting with people and going, wow, it's the first time in a long time, I'm not sure how much I'm helping because it's so chronic and has been for so long in these particular people. But no, don't give up, walk the extra mile for a person. And I've come out of the room the other day really excited going, whoa, I just, and, you know, and Jo's like, oh my God, don't say any more. Do you want to come on the podcast? Because it dovetails with things that we've been experiencing. So as I'm saying it, Jo's feeling freer and lighter and going, oh my God, just, you know.
It's like when you talk about that and you talk about the men and, you know, where you say, you really have to sit and hold space. I get the feeling that there's layers and layers and layers of stuff that people are under. And it's like, you know, there's medication, there's trauma, there's family stuff, there's societal beliefs, all of these things.
Pressures.
Yeah. And for men, it's like, I know it's for women as well, but for men, there's this feeling of having to do it right. You
Yes,
know?
emotional space to get out into as well.
So
Like safety in that space.
Exactly. So when, you know, just come and sit in a space where someone's actually holding space with no judgment, for them to be able to walk back through whatever they need to walk back through, to come out and even just have the smallest realization is so beautiful and so powerful.
Yeah, I love it when you get that group, when you're seeing individual clients, but then you get this mass appearance of what's showing up for people, and you really, as you say, you really get on every level that it's a collective thing. There's the healer guide energy between yourself, relationship between yourself and your clients. That, as you say, shows up for yourself and what's there for you to see to and clear for your own energy field. But when it's en masse and you can see the collective energy of what's going on, and kudos to the people reaching out for help too, because that's not always an easy thing to do.
No, that's right. And I almost wrote notes about the things that I wanted to make sure we covered today, that I just communicated in case it helped people. But then I went, well, that's really male too, to write the notes and to think I'd better make sure I cover it all. And so I feel vulnerable and emotional when I say that, because I think, the Einstein quote, you cannot solve a problem on the same level of mind it was created. So even around this and talking about it, more information is not going to help all the information in our head.
Oh, it's so true.
So I kind of preferred to come in and just go, all right, I'm going to trust spirit and trust the feminine and the masculine connection here in the room to go, whatever needs to come out will come out, because when Joe started speaking about, there's medicines that people have been taking.
Yeah.
There's, I should have to say, coffee that they've been drinking. It's just a part of a thing that we have. I've had one cup of coffee in my life, and so I've become this coffee.
You take it to share.
It's just it's an in joke which we won't really go into, but there's the Diary of a CEO has just had this brain
scientist.
Expert.
Yes, around caffeine.
Brain expert or clinician on, and he's done 250,000 brain scans, and people might have seen this one. It's a beautiful podcast, but one of the things he mentions is coffee. He says coffee actually makes your brain, stops the blood flow to your brain, or there's caffeine. So it was just this morning I was like, honey, caffeine, don't start with me on caffeine. But if you actually just take that out of the equation for the moment, because it's not one of the most.
It's another thing that we rely on. It's an addiction. It's social, because it's like, how many of us love our baristas?
Yep.
We have a relationship with them. It's the other people that are there. It's the places you go. It gets you out of your workspace or out of your home space. There's so many facets to what the coffee/caffeine is about. That also is the same for a lot of other things that we.
I didn't realise Joe had a relationship with it.
We are not going. We are not going down this coffee path.
No, don't worry about it. So in general, there's all these things. So even talking about it from a brain perspective, and our good friend Keith talks about this a lot, that we get inflammation in our brain. And this is what this 250,000 scan doctor is saying, and his studies are absolutely fascinating. But right through from medicines, the side effects of medicines, through to what chemicals we're putting in our body generally, like it could be we're around fuel when we're pumping petrol, stuff like that. But then things like mold in rooms, right back to head injuries from playing soccer when you were younger, not from hitting someone's head, but from hitting the ball. I'm like, well, I didn't play soccer, fortunately, but he talks about all these.
Hard. Hit quite a few waves hard.
Yeah, hit quite a few waves. I did hit my head a few times. Don't worry. But they're all the things that Joe mentioned at the start. All the multiple alcohol, drugs, trauma, emotional trauma, everything else that actually contributes to the male feeling very stuck. But what's been coming through more than that, and that's why I was like, I'm not going to write notes, because I could talk about a million different things and we could go down a coffee path, which would be ridiculous and a waste of time. Because
does cause anxiety though.
Does cause anxiety, yeah. Any stimulant causes anxiety. But ultimately, it's just about the fact that we're going through this. It's like we're quantum beings. So ultimately, the conversation where I think we probably should go today is, if we begin with the end in mind, and the end is that ultimately the end, not everybody's kind of aware of this or fully tuned into or tapped into it, but if you just stretch from where most people are going, which is where they want to live a happy, healthy life, if you stretch a little bit further on from there, you kind of discover that the end is rediscovering that you're part of oneness, that you're part of all that is, that all life force and energy is a beautiful, amazing spirit. If you're religious, you'd call it God. If you're spiritual without modality, you might still call it God, or you might call it the universe or life itself or spirit or whatever it may be. and that there's this beautiful essence that sits in stillness, that speaks the language of love, or love permeates through it, that is in that place. All of our personalities drop away, all of our separations, all of our differences, our male, our female, our, the rich, the poor, the dumb, the smart, the fast, the slow, the fat, the skinny, it all drops away. The duality, the world duality drops away, which is on the third, fourth and fifth dimensional model. It's the fourth dimension, where we introduce time, so now we're forward and backwards, past and future, but we're also good, bad, right and wrong. And so from the basis of that, we assess everything from acceptable or unacceptable. I'm good enough or I'm not good enough. I'm beloved or I won't be loved because I'm lovable or I'm not lovable. And so what's happening, particularly for men, is that the male lovable is by performance. So even at the start, when you said sharing this gift or whatever, and you said yes, and you hopefully he'll perform.
Because he's an athlete.
That's right.
Not just a man.
So Joe's subtly probably sitting over there going, "Come on, get this on the right track, and we're gonna know this is a good one." But there's a so once again, it's not about, and I think I said this before we started, that it's not about the male and female. It is in the male psyche or the male structure, but it's actually about the yin and the yang, which is a better way to do it. Because yin and yang, so you had feminine and masculine, but it's really about being, which is opening up and receiving, to doing, which is moving forward, straight lines as opposed to the circle. The circular of the female.
And when you talk about yin and yang as well, you feel flow, you feel movement between the two. It's sort of like it seems to come as a resonancy, maybe because it's in a circular thing, or it's a black and white, the white and the black and the white, and and the yin and yang, you kind of get that movement of feeling, whereas opposed to masculine and feminine, the energy that's built up around that, there seems to be more rigidity there for a lot of people, or that energy attached to those two words.
So the structure in the masculine and the yang is very much about what am I doing to create my worth. So it's in both the women and the men, but it's like, am I of worth, based on what I'm doing. The pure feminine just wants to care and receive and bring everybody in. The masculine, how can I actually be of worth of that care and receiving? So if I do something good, then I'll be received by the feminine, or I'll be able to have love or something like that. So even when I say that, it's like a little tremor in me that just kind of goes, that's so deep in us men, that we want to be loved. We want to be even liked.
There's a part of me hearing you say that, it's like I want to hear you say it twice, because it's hard for me to even receive what you're communicating. It's like it's a weird thing. It's almost like a part of us that I don't know what it is, whether it's because we are going to that more lightness place, that place you talked about of non-duality and all of that, but where I'm still somewhere where it's hard to even hear that. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm hearing what you're saying, but I'm not. Well,
I feel a little bit of a confusion around it, because I feel like, but you're so tough and you're a man. Why would you feel
the need to be loved?
Why would you feel weak in that space? It's like, and whereas
that's the programming, isn't it?
And where as a woman, it's like, but I feel like I struggle to feel worth or be seen or valued or this or that, and it's part of my self identity, but let alone being a woman. But it's seeing a man in that just seems confusing.
Absolutely. So what's happening for myself is that I tend to be relatively strong, can stand on my own, hold my own space and support other people, and in most flows I'm moving, but then I'm actually, as I'm going more towards my full sort of realised conscious self, I'm working backwards through right down into my boy self, right down into where I didn't feel seen or heard or understood or acknowledged or validated, or taken seriously, which we all have. So rather than me project it to we all have it, the easiest way for me to talk about it for people to feel and hear is to talk about it personally, like how it feels to me. So it's real and authentic rather than teach it or share it. So
lecture it.
rather than go, this is what I'm seeing, it's like, this is what I'm experiencing. You know,
That
and
feeling thing.
yeah, so Joe and I have been through a fascinating stage because I think it's fair to say Joe's going through menopause at the moment.
What? I am not.
And the podcast.
You've gone too far
How
now.
dare you tell me that?
I think we have dropped the N word a few times.
Yeah. Absolutely,
Which-
absolutely.
I feel emotional now because I rang Joe a couple of days before this realisation
Yeah.
last week, and I said, "Oh my God, hon, I'm getting it. Oh, I've got a whiff of what you're going through, and therefore what the feminine goes through." And I'm saying it from how I perceive it, but from over here, I'm watching this amazing woman being, you know, spark of source, go through this identity crisis. You know, at its first level, it's a crisis, then it's a magical journey where I was once fertile, and it largely defines who I am in the world and what I give and how I give. And then, you know, the most horrible word is barren, isn't it? You know, but that's the idea of it, is that, from that perspective, it sounds like I'm losing my function or my service or whatever it is. But what's actually happening is I'm watching Jo become her whole self. She's coming out of the mother and being the mother, you know, and into the mother, the mother energy, and also the spark of source energy, you know. So,
With so much wisdom.
I feel like you guys are talking about somebody completely, you know, not me.
well, we're talking about everybody.
Exactly.
Oh, that's right, Joe's here.
Yeah. So, Amanda, let's keep this conversation going. Don't let us distract you.
You guys keep going talking about me. I'm just listening.
But I'm watching, you know, even from watching you two girls, ladies, amazing beings doing this podcast, and I see what Jo comes home with, and I hear it. I go to the gym, which I've gone back in lately to get some strength back and just get some functionality in my body because I haven't done that for a long time. And I'm in the gym listening to, you know, Maxine Therese talk about, Dr. Maxine talk about, you know, this near-death experience, and I'm doing bench press and I'm watching, you know, these good-looking girls and good-looking guys walking past in all their gym gear and that whole gym thing going on, and I'm exploring who we are on a deep existential level at the same time doing a bench press, you know.
Out of
Or
your body, but so in your body.
Trying to do a chin-up, you know, with assisted weight. Or, you know, I used to have 60 kilos around my waist. Now I've got 60 kilos of assistance to try and do it, you know. And so I'm seeing Jo come home. I'm seeing you together. I'm experiencing being in a relationship with someone who's so on track and on purpose. She has both her secret sister, where she's speaking to young girls, but also teachers and mothers and
So passionate about
principals and leaders in the community. But then she's working on Girl Awakening, meeting these amazing people. And then I'm listening to the podcasts, and then I'm seeing people come up to me and say, "Oh my God, listen to your wife's podcast."
Oh. That's so cool.
That's Jo dodging the vulnerability because she's always been tough and strong.
Yeah.
But you know, if I just speak it from a husband talking about a wife, or a male talking about the female partner, I'm watching my wife open her heart fully, you know, and share everything that's in her heart. And as she's doing it, she's also becoming more, I'm not going to say, she's definitely more independent. She's always been independent. Never been a problem with that. But she's becoming more certain. And as she's becoming more certain, she's becoming more, I don't need you, you know?
So how does that
Yeah. She's becoming more, oh, you told me that yesterday. It's kind of boring. How fast
boring me?
how fast
My
I'm
podcast
moving.
this morning was much more interesting.
Yeah, but how fast I'm moving right now. So I'm really just coming here today to try and keep up. Become relevant
Plug
again.
in.
No, and
No,
so
I hear what you're saying, like
Yeah.
that feeling of so where do I fit in
so
that?
so as Jo's identity is changing, and I'm pushing my own identity, but at the same time I'm struggling with some changes I've made in the sense of not struggling as in, oh, help, more struggling as, oh my God, like, whoa, how do I make sense of all this?
Yeah.
My heart's been opening, and I'm turning around, and someone that's been my stable point for a long, long time is going, talk to the hand, you know, in a positive spiritual sense. She's actually going, nah, like this, and I'm going, I can do with some understanding today. Today's not a day of understanding, it's a day of movement and dusting.
And we'll bring your daughter into it and say about drilling as
Drill,
well.
yes.
There's got to be some men
Christelle
jobs.
rang right before we started.
Yeah.
Dad, I need you.
Yeah.
My husband's not doing this. Could you do it for me?
That's hilarious.
It's like, so I think we're getting somewhere in this conversation into
We
what
are.
I'm trying
We're
to
building
say.
it. We're
Yeah,
building
we're
the
building
foundation.
We're opening up where the conversations, you know, why we're here today. But
Because just and on that note, like what you're also saying is like, you know, you're going through your own stages, like as Joe's going through menopause, and there's not a lot of acknowledgement around men's hormonal changes as a physiology, let alone the mental emotional phases that men go through in different.
what do you mean, mental hormonal changes? Us men don't go through hormonal changes.
No, yes you do, yes you do.
I want
Yes.
to just add on that note too, just a different aspect, a different viewpoint is that a friend yesterday just said to me too, when I've been talking a lot about menopause to different women and you know, crying out for support, kind of, and then realising that there is a whole program around menopause as well that you can get caught in.
Totally.
You
Yes.
know,
Oh,
and
so
I'm,
much.
and I'm
That's why I was reluctant to
Yeah.
raise it because of all the constriction that's around it as well.
exactly,
All
and
the
it's
bullshit.
like, yeah, it's bullshit, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm having some changes in my body. I'm seeing it and I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
But mentally, I still feel fresh as. Like I don't think, I'm sure you'll be able to tell me if I'm going down a crazy path, you know, like as in my mind starting to tell me crazy thoughts. I don't feel that. And I feel like there's a part of me that is waiting for that because society said this is what menopause is. It's hot flushes, it's this, it's that, it's, you know, you start to get really angry at life and all this, and you know, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of that.
You came out of that
story.
anger thing. That was something that you'd experienced a lot as a child.
Yeah.
That as we worked through that stuff, you were like getting lighter and freer, and more recently, like last couple of years, like really coming into much more acceptance and stillness. And it has amplified a bit lately.
Yeah.
You know, reflecting back to Joe here for a moment, we'll just air this.
Yeah.
There's been moments where I'm like, oh, and it's like not like regression, but it's like, oh, she's getting angry again. It's something she wouldn't have got angry at 6 or 12 months ago
Yeah.
that she'd gone past, you know. And so I was starting to go, you're not really being there for me. She's getting angry, you know, not understanding my journey. And I was like, whoa, hang on, dude. Like, how about you get your shit together and start, you know, moving forward, because I've been through an interesting cleanse myself, a detox of some old energies and change of roles. I left a big role that I played voluntary for the surf club for 9 years on that committee and 7 years, you know, in the primary position. And then I'd also helped start another charity fully in that period of time. I'd worked at football clubs. I'd done all these very, like, I'm out there doing the thing. And all of a sudden I was like, and I was also very vocal around COVID period, around standing up for people and standing up for kids and parents that, you know, all that sort of stuff.
Sovereignty, freedom of choice.
Sovereignty and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was being a man very much then, saying, no, don't speak to people like that. They're people allowed to express that they're worried or fearful about this or that, you know. And
Being a bit of a guardian, actually.
it's being a guardian, and I got a little bit of warrior energy came in, a bit of back in, which I kind of moved beyond the warrior energy into the guardian energy, and I went back into the warrior. Ended up with COVID. In the middle of COVID, when I nearly died for about the fifth time, we had Delta when it was not much of it left. So COVID went, right, well, you're going to get the experience, I'll show you fully. And there was some crazy programs and almost artificial and digital frequencies embedded and nested in that COVID virus.
Yeah.
A lot of people tell you, if you look around it now, I never saw the viewpoints until afterwards, that a lot of these things have frequencies inside of them. No, everything's frequency and vibration, but there's these artificial and technically created frequencies. So we now know it's, you know, it's basically largely confirmed it was created in a lab. Structured for a specific purpose. It had a purpose, and part of that purpose has been revealed. You know, and it's obvious because it was weaponized, you know, but it was weaponized against this or that, or whatever. It went out it came. But there's some other elements in it as well. So anyway, I experienced all this stuff and saw a bigger picture of, wow, how's the intent? And this is where we're getting closer to what I want to say today. But how's the intent behind energy? So certain energy has intent, and certain life forces in certain frequencies or bands of frequency have certain intent, positive or negative or whatever it may be, destructive or crumbling or drawing or sucking or suppressing or compressing or all these other things that we call negative. They're all sort of specific intents that energy can have. So anyway, I all of a sudden went through a cleanse where I didn't have these roles anymore, and I just went into retreat space. Wanted to grab the camper trailer, the tent, just go. You coming, Joe? You're not coming? Okay, I'll go on my own. You know, one night I was like, see ya.
Joe was busy.
I think I spoke to you guys one afternoon. I was on my way down to Brunswick Heads, you know?
Yes.
Happy camper. You were a happy camper.
I was a happy camper. And I needed the retreat into nature, and I needed to investigate a few things. But as I was going through that, I was experiencing separation, and I was experiencing heartbreak, and I was experiencing broken and failure and letting people down and not good enough and not enough. And I didn't have the answers, and we didn't pull it off, and everybody's not happy, and we didn't get through it. Even from the COVID perspective, there's still a planetary, you know, passport system that's trying to be put in place. Like, we're going further down that path. So anyway, I'm going through this thing, and Joe at the same time is going through an amazing, she's putting her energy out. So as I'm retreating and pulling back, Joe's speaking to women and putting out podcasts and going out to schools and everything, and we're almost in the opposite flow for a period of time. And talk about yin and yang, which is great. Yeah. But when you're meeting the middle,
in the yin. In the yang.
I was like, let me out of here, you know. And so from that perspective, from not understanding it fully, it could be easily, we went through like a period of abrasiveness, hey?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't long and super hard. It wasn't like, I'm over you. It was just like, you know. And Joe's expressing and putting herself right out there, and I'm going retreating, you know. So ultimately, as we've gone through that, which is so funny, so yang, Joe's the yang and I'm in the yin, and then I got to feel. I'm looking at Kuan Yin Oracle. Kuan Yin Oracle. There's a booklet, there's a thing right in front of us. And when I walked in, you had the cards, and there was one card flipped, and it was heart chakra. My heart's been fluttering like lately and palpitating and all sorts of different stuff. But ultimately, by flipping it, actually Joe was even the one earning the money. You know, like you were bringing the primary source of income. I was dribbling in my portion, and Joe would go, "We really need that money," and I'd go, "Okay, well I'm going camping. Can you sort that?" But this is the bigger picture of, you know, an authentic, a spiritual partnership. What is it? An authentic relationship is a spiritual partnership that exists between two equals to support each other's spiritual growth. That was Gary Zukav. And it was probably I'm just speaking now in front of Joe, it's probably the best thing I've been through in a long time, because I feel like I'm finding my feet again. But I feel like that separation we experienced of going through two opposites but same stuff from a different angle is it just allowed me to actually feel my heart, allowed me to feel beyond my man into my boy, into where I didn't feel understood and even trusted. Is a really interesting one. I didn't feel trusted from a very young age, and I'm not sure where it came from, but never really felt trusted. And then I became very untrustable, you know, like untrustworthy. And I did things that was, in the end, it was like, you know, against my own ethics and everything else. But I'm exploring all the way back, and I'm remembering being a little boy and just experiencing the world as a little boy more and more. And recently we come back from overseas and went in to see my dad, who's got dementia, who's just turned 90. And we'd all been away, so he'd been in the home and hadn't seen anyone for a while. So Joe and I walked in. Before I left, I'd sit with my dad and I'd say, "Who am I?" And he'd say, look at me for a while, and he'd say, "You're my dad." And I was like, wow, Dad's regressing, you know, into his childhood, you know, as he goes through the process that I'm hopefully going through consciously now. It's being forced upon him through the dementia. because he's so open-hearted right now. He's so soft and gentle, and you know. And then we come back from Europe and we walk in, and I'm looking at him. He was so gentle. And he's laying with his head on his side on the pillow. And I went right up to him, and I was just rubbing his face, and I'm like about 2 inches away from him. I said, "Hello, Dad," and giving him a kiss on the cheek and the forehead and stuff. And I said, "Who am I?" And he looked at me and he said, "You're my daddy."
Oh.
And he'd gone further, and we both went, "Oh," you know. And so I'm having all these experiences at the moment that are revealing to me what's inside the male, that how deeply we have never felt loved or looked after or seen or acknowledged or validated, and how we just go, "Ah!" There's an impulse inside of us to go, "Well, I'm not going to," so we shut that vulnerability down, and we go for the success or the winning or the proving or the providing or the whatever it is to perform the role of the male. So as it's been breaking down, Joe's also been going through a powerful transition, going out there, and probably in some ways, probably like, and I think you even said to me, I really could do with it, like just a strong man standing beside me at the moment, and you're like this weak, blubbery mess, you know, like, something else quite like that. But this is all perfect because it's all perfect because Joe's exploring her becoming who she fully is, and I'm exploring me becoming who I fully am. But what it's done is all of a sudden, and I had anxiety, and I could feel my father visiting me in the middle of the night because he's between worlds. He's not in his body fully anymore, and he's not out of his body fully anymore, and he's not sure what's going on. And I work in that world where I go in with people and I explore what's way back between worlds for them, so that they can release it, and then their life changes in this world. And I realised, my dad's coming to visit me, and the anxiety stopped. As soon as I realised it's not my anxiety, it's my dad's anxiety. And so that was the first stage, and then I felt comfortable for a while, and I'm like, oh wow, the anxiety's gone. And then all of a sudden, I started to get it back, and then I realised one of our sons is going through anxiety, and I was feeling it again. I'm going, I've got anxiety again. I go, oh, it's not mine, it's his. You know, but it's still part of me. You know, it's stuff that's undealt with inside of myself is manifesting through him, and vice versa.
Calling to you.
And then I started to handle that, and we've been very open and just working through things, and I've been really just being by his side as best I can. And as he goes through life changes and challenges, he's an own identity crisis and struggle. And then what's happened is all of a sudden, all these men have started to turn up with not just anxiety. The first couple had anxiety, and then it's like had anxiety on depression medication, been on it for 20 years. I've seen this psychologist, this psychiatrist, I've been here, done that, been to everyone. I'm standing on the edge of the cliff looking over, and you know, someone says you're the last person I could go see, you should go see him before. And you know,
sad. Sad. Yeah, it's really lonely.
Yeah. And it's sad, and it's also interesting for me from my own perspective, because I'm like, my greatest desire from when I worked with Colin, my great teacher, which you hate being called a teacher, my great spiritual mate that helped me through a lot of stuff, is that I always wanted to be as there's an emergency going past.
I was just thinking that.
I always wanted to be.
Growing.
It's like fight or flight. I always wanted to be as safe a space as he was. Because he could call the shit out of you. He could absolutely turn you upside down, look you straight in the face, and then you look at him and you're just thinking, what part can I pick in him for my reason to run out the door and not believe in him? And you look straight through his soul and go, there's not one part of him that's actually doing this for anything other than for me. So he could tell you the brutal truth, but just to stand by your side, you know. And he used to say, if you're going to call someone on something, make sure you stay with them until you bring them through, otherwise don't call them at all. And I think we're really shit at that in society. We're calling out this and calling out that. We're social media commenting. We don't give a shit about our call on someone else. We call and then run.
Or we're structuring the therapy in segments that you have to, you know, it's drip feeding. You know, the financial exchange, and in between visits, people are kind of like hanging, you know, basically, because it's like it's not in a space where they walk out and go, I have a sense of something.
Reflection.
So
I just realised I called society. I just called us all on that. Now I'm going to have to stick with the story come through. But you know, so I all of a sudden these men are coming to me, and I've shared a story with Joe about someone who I just really stuck through with something with him, and had to really go somewhere I've never had to go in helping someone in brutal honesty until something popped out where he said what was really sitting there. And it's happened a couple of times now in different ways with different people. And so I had to get through this brutal honesty to be able to see this thing that someone was sitting on. And then when I could see that, the next person, which was equally as stuck, I could already see the thing because now I could see it. You know, before I was blind, now I could see. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting with these men and I'm like, oh my God, I can see what's going on for you. And it's not you. You know, it's not basically, it's, and we'll get into that in a moment, because basically what's happening is the men are experiencing the change that the planet's going through right now. And the planet's shifting from the masculine to the feminine. It's shifting from doing and looking good and structure and the banking system that you need and the medical system that you need and the government system that you can't do without and the education system that you never be able to get there without it and all of the systems, the religious system that you need, all the systems that you can't do without are all the systems that are built on male structure. And that male structure is making itself out to be the answer, and it has to fall apart before we go through as a collective. Because as Joe was demonstrating to me, was that if I was needed, she wasn't going free. And I was just actually stuck in a spot of reliance where I couldn't face my own shit and be vulnerable. So
on that too though, I was going to say this earlier actually, thanks for reminding me, that, you know, as a female too, there's somewhere where we put ourselves, I put myself under somewhere, you know, in our relationship where I had you as more powerful, let's say, or knew more.
Had the answers.
Which totally had me locked somewhere that I couldn't budge from. And it was my doing, it wasn't anyone else's doing. I actually put myself there. And it wasn't until I started to poke my head out and go, oh, wow, you know, what I'm capable of, what we're all capable of as women, that I was like, okay, I can walk beside you. You know, I there was that, and luckily, I mean, I know there's a lot of men out there that love their partners very much, but luckily I had someone that was like willing to also let go of his own, whatever it was, power, ego.
Reluctantly willing. No, I did. Once I could see what I had to let go of. The thing was I didn't know what I had to let go of. And I was like, oh, I can see now. Oh my God. So I had to let go first. And then Joe was going. And I was like, oh, I can see, like, could you love her as she goes to freedom, you know, while you're over here wanting to be loved, you know? No.
And it's not about, like, even using the word power is not it. Like, just for me personally saying that seems so not right. It's not about power. It's about truth, and it's about, I teach this to my young girls, it's about being who you are, the uniqueness of you. There's no one like you. And it's about you expressing that in your own way, which brings that space.
That's the word that's coming to me, is the space. I mean, the power symbolises quite a lot, and in terms that we can all relate to, but space, it's the space that Trevor was holding, space that you were holding. It's like the space, you know, there was an exchange of space, there was a sharing of space, there was, you know, that converging. And what I know of, like say with menopause and this time in life and in relationships, is that a lot of the issues that women face with menopause is those frustrations and those limitations and the lack of power and the lack of space, the lack of expression, where they willingly or unwillingly held themselves in roles. And then in menopause, as you explained so beautifully, Trevor, when it's a space of freeing out into this whole different level of relationship with the mother, there's all these blockages in the way, you know, and there is the hot flashes
programs and expectations and you know, and physical things and all chemical things.
Absolutely.
A lack of intimacy with your partner, like, because sexual energy is an amazing releaser of energy and exchange and connector, and you know, often there's a very unhealthy space that people hold at that time and are pushing apart, as opposed to a coming together in that space too. So, and you know, the man honouring the female in that phase of her life too, and that relationship aspect, the intimacy. So there's a lot of
absolutely
energy that
you know what just I thought of them too, just that beautiful space of the connecting with the mother, you know, just that amazing journey of that in itself reminds me of Britt's podcast where she was talking about when we're coming in as a teen 13-14-year-old girl having her first bleed or having her first menstruation connection with
moving into maidenhood and from young girl into maidenhood
and how powerful that is, but it's not being seen on the planet. There's somewhere where it's being held somewhere, and so there's
as a grief, as an understanding
of
what your body's doing.
It's a rite of passage, exactly, but it's not being viewed as
it's
that.
It's the sacred coming in. It's the you know
and
in
it's
and out
like
of birth and
there's so
other
many
life.
there's so
and
many
celebrate
women.
your body in different ways, but
there's so many girls that are committing suicide at this age. There's actually studies being done that
they're feeling resistance and mourning
at that stage. They're not being not recognised, but they're not getting it.
The
Nobody's
elders,
showing
the
them.
relationship with the elders, I think, was how she shared it.
We
It's
might
a very
touch on that
it's a
more.
very similar feeling, just to the menopause. All of it, it's all connected. Where we're not actually, you know.
And being in
there's no
resonancy
space.
with each other was like it harmonises for the man walking alongside his woman. That harmonising of energies that happens along that way, how it benefits both. And I think you've been alluding to this in what you've been sharing.
Yeah, it's even this conversation is like an unfolding of so many things I've wanted to talk about and say. So it almost feels a bit clunky, and I'm wondering if people sitting there going, "What the hell are we talking about?" or whatever.
We're doing a Robin Williams.
Yeah.
We're going out there and we're going to come back right to the
and so, but it's all. I can actually also see. The very point that I felt moved by spirit to come and share is sitting in about 20 minutes in the future, that I can feel, this is giving the backstory for why I'm going to say what I'm going to say.
Beautiful.
But it also relates to why when girls are committing suicide.
Yeah.
But if I, firstly, and there's so many points I've started and not finished because we just keep moving around. But firstly, when I rang you last week, and I was like, oh my God, I can see what you're going through.
Yeah.
I understand you're going through this amazing phase and process.
Grabs you every time you say it.
I just felt, all of a sudden, like, I'll give you all the space you need. It was like, for me, something shifted in me, because it's not about my needs. It's actually about what I need to do right now is be there for you in this amazing process that you're going through. And it was like, I think I said, I can't even remember really, but I said something along the lines of, whatever you need, I'm with you, you know. And that's like an evolution for me, because from not being trusted and then not trusting others and all that sort of stuff, I've always felt that I have to give something in to get something back. And to get something back is a major reason why you give in the end, because I've got this need, so I'll give that to you and you give it to me, and it becomes this clunky control thing like Joe was talking about. I have answers for her. Got answers for you? Good, it's good. Now we can be into it. Or something, like some sort of a role thing, where the truth is, we don't need each other. No one needs anybody else. The truth is, if there's anything we need, it's to know ourselves as source, is to know ourselves, to connect with the mother, the father energy, to know who we are more fully. And then it's all playground and enjoyable, and it's enhancing and beautiful and powerful to have a relationship. And the relationship might even push these things up in our face, these blocks and everything. But it's not we need the relationship. In some ways it is. If you're not getting there, you might need the relationship to reflect back to you, your own chip, or to push you into a place where you're more unconditional. And that's come up a lot lately, the conditional and the unconditional. But ultimately, as I'm like, oh my God, I would do anything for you. Wherever you went, whatever you need to do, and it's kind of like, this is kind of brutally honest, but if we need to never have sex again, or never make love or be intimate again, that's okay. If you need to know yourself in the full purity of all that connection, and in that there's the intimacy or the male-female physical intimacy, if that at this level is a block, shit, you know?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, you know, so facing all of the stuff
Yeah.
as a boy that grows up and goes, well, that's at least that's one thing I can get. I can get some
Yeah.
sex if I do a good job. You know? If I hammer that nail in,
Yeah, get a
and bring
reward.
home the payback, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever is in the programming.
Yeah.
So you don't think, like I'm a relatively, you know, conscious guy doing a decent job of moving through life, taking responsibility, you know,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I'm actually still stuck on that or hooked on that or needing that or whatever. And it's like
It's
in
a
your
big one,
face.
Yeah.
My partner, my wife, my best friend, the person that's done the most for me ever in my life, needs me right now to just say, I've got you,
Yeah.
whatever you need to do. And I rang you and said that to you, and it freed me out more than anything. You said later, oh, thank you for that conversation. But we were coming through some clunky stuff then, and I think, I don't know, you can share, but I think you felt in a moment he can perceive what's going on here, or he's got a bit more of an idea rather than, what's this mean to me, you know?
Yeah, but if we had so much freedom, and again, it's that, you know, that communication is such a powerful tool. We can lean into each other and share intimate relationship through conversation. That is one of the
That's
sexiest things that a couple
The
can ever
most
share,
connective things that you
because
can do.
it opens up to so much else. And you know, and if from women's points of view, if they don't feel pressure to perform sexually
Yeah,
at times when their body is experiencing so much, it enables things. Not saying that that's your case, Joe, we're not intimating that for you at all, no, but it enables a lot to come through.
Yes.
Because it's not like that's never going to happen. It's like your body is diverting on different pathways and attending to different things. Gardens are needing to grow over here, and you know, the juiciness comes back in different ways, and it's that maturing of the relationship into, I mean, you know, I think I've said this before, the French hold women at their best sexual maturity from 50 on because of a lot of different things, and you know, spoken to different women in their 70s, and they said it's the best sex they're having at that time of their life with their partner, because they have so much of these other different things going on in the relationship. And you know, it's the communication aspect,
there's a true word.
the vulnerability is
Or
beautiful.
intimacy.
The
We call
intimacy.
sex intimacy, but is it? Until it's actually intimate.
Exactly.
Until
Yeah,
it's like I
exactly.
intimately know you or experience you or feel you or whatever from a vibrational spiritual point of view.
Yeah.
And that's what's been interesting, is that I do feel like in the last week or so, I feel like we're coming out the other side of this experience of separation out from
Exploring.
or coming out of dependence through independence to interdependence.
Yeah.
So it's not I need your answers. It's not I don't need your answers. It's like, oh, we can bounce around. God, we've got so many answers for each other when we're sharing. We can see so much, and we're really going through the same thing from different viewpoints and different angles. You know,
Yeah,
so this kind of closeness has started to come back in the last couple of days, and you know, there was a period there a couple of weeks ago when I was looking at Joe going, you know, like, because I felt rejected, or I felt, you know, like, oh, she's off on a merry journey to become whole.
And I know, she did not ask me to come to lunch.
Yeah, you know, but it was like all this was consciously going through, going, wow, what an amazing thought I was having.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, all of a sudden, at the same time, I'm seeing Joe and going, oh wow, I don't know, I'm not seeing Joe, I'm feeling Joe. I'm feeling who she's becoming. Like, it's more than what I saw.
Yeah.
It's now what I can feel. It's like, oh my God, this is why you're supposed to get out of the way, because as she expands her space, it's like, wow, this is really amazing and beautiful, and she has all these answers for me.
Yeah.
So it's flipping.
It's really interesting. I mean, we have these open conversations
Yeah.
a lot, but I mean, today we're obviously going to another place. But it's
With
like
a lot of people.
yes, and it's like I'm sitting over here and I'm hearing what you're saying and all that, and it's, you know, it's all about your journey.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's about. And I'm sitting over here going, wow, I've got something completely different going on.
Yeah.
For
And isn't
me,
it amazing?
yeah, around being intimate and all that.
Mm.
But you're creating a space for me to keep going through that and checking in with that, you know, because my journey has been my journey around being intimate and sex, and how, you know, I have similar things growing up where, you know, for me, being sexually abused when I was younger, having this mindset that men want something from you, you know, and then it's a very distorted view, which I've worked through and come a long way from there. But it's my view around that. It's completely different from your view around that. Yet we're together in relationship to bounce, to reflect as a mirror, to see each other, to hear each other, to break down the stuff and come up into a new space.
Deeper,
more
juicier, connected, and resonancy on
more
all
loving, more
levels.
understanding.
and just sitting here as a human,
Yeah.
and seeing that, it's like, wow, how amazing is it that the universe brings us together in relationship or friendship or whatever it is, as son, as mother, as daughter, as father, whatever,
Yeah.
to bounce off and reflect from completely different places, but they're so similar.
Yeah, there's a reason why you've come together, because there's a common thread, but yet there's a...
Yeah.
And I keep thinking the song that's coming into my brain is the Pina Colada song. And then his girlfriend turns up at the answer in the ad because they're both looking for the same thing.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
Yes.
You know, but this is the thing in a relationship, was like, you know, what you just kind of shared is like hearing Trevor talking about it is giving you a deeper understanding of where he's journey, as well as
what I'm working through and what I'm seeing and what this means. And that an authentic relationship is a partnership between two equals that exist to support each other's spiritual growth. Like that saying that keeps coming back.
It's just so
It's a partnership between two equals that exist to support each other's spiritual growth. So we're reflecting all these elements. And then even when Joe says, you know, I had this distorted view that men just want something, you know, and she's clearing through that. But actually, she's not imagining it.
True.
So at a very embarrassing level,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, that's what I'm working through.
That's what I mean. It's
That's
like
what I'm working through, that I did
Yeah.
actually want something. And what it was the word I was trying to share with you the other day. I was going, oh, this word, I can't think of it. And then I went, exploitation.
Yes.
And it opened, and this is getting closer to the other thing I want to talk about, but I all of a sudden could feel the energy of exploitation. I'm using or utilising you for my own needs, rather than our relationship exists to support each other's spiritual growth. It's like, I want to feel comfortable and good around you, and if you could just stay exactly where you are and not change too much, because right now I've got a good racket that I'm running.
I've got a good trampoline I've bounced.
Yeah, I'm just basically over here going, everything's not too bad. I've got all keeping the wolves at bay. And what do you mean you're moving and changing? No. You move, my house of cards falls down, and I have to look at my own shit.
Yes.
You know, and so on that, just quickly pop it into another layer, is that as I'm going through that, and we came in the heart chakra card was open. I've had so much heart stuff happening, but what I'm realizing is my experience of the male is that all of my programs, the male programs, have been up around my neck, back of my head, my shoulders, top of my chest, up under sort of diaphragm where power is, you know, the solar plexus, like drawing up into fight or flight and fight the battle, and shoulders come forward and elbows tuck in so the sword can't get in between my ribs, you know, and then at the end of it, what you do, you win the battle, and then you rape and pillage, and then, or you in my sport, you win the girl, you plunder, whatever, you get the girl or whatever it is, and it's the programming element. So what's actually happening is, as we're going through this, in the non-personal level, I'm experiencing the freeing of these old programs, and this old. So while I'm saying, hey, if you move, I've got to face the racket that I'm running. At the same time, if you move, I have to face the racket I'm running, and as I'm facing the racket I'm running, I actually can see the racket that's running me. And these are the old male spiritual programs on the planet. And all of the systems, education, wow, military industrial complex, big pharma, media, obviously policing and government. What's that? Playboy. That's very specific. But yeah, so sex and porn and and then entertainment and sport and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
All of these big systems that are run on male energy, they require that we all stay, particularly the men and the women, but I'll just say for the men at the moment because that's my direct experience. It's been a while since I've been a woman. So, we're experiencing that energy does not want to let us go.
Yeah.
So as we're going through the feminine rising on the planet, if you feel it, while the feminine's rising, the old structure of the masculine has to die.
It's breaking down.
It's breaking down. It's collapsing. So there's this massive pool or pit or energy on the planet that is what we call anxiety, and it's a pit. And it's basically, it's like just this big thing it's moving around. And as I've got my personal attachments to wanting to be loved and liked, so I hook into that energy because I can become a someone through those systems. And now, when you want to break out of the system, I'm pointing to Joe, I'm like, whoa, because I've got to face the whole system. So Joe's being herself, and all of a sudden I'm feeling shaky and everything else is because there's not only did I not want to let go of the system, but as soon as I went, oh my God, no, I would do anything for Joe. No, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Whether it's never seen you again, whether it's whatever it is, and we're not saying we needed to do any of that. But
but you put yourself in a comfortable position
it.
where you allowed whatever was going to happen, could happen.
And in my mind, that could be everything. I'm not needed at all.
That's the anxiety, exactly. It takes.
And so as I let go of the hooks and attachments, I had this moment of freeing and this releasing and then feeling love with Joe. But then, why do I feel like, what that just came in? The system wasn't finished with me. So I'm letting go of how I'm attached to the system so I get what I want. But then the system's going, no, you don't just change your mind. I'm still embedded
I've got
in
other
you.
ways.
I've got impulses. I've got impulses I can run through you. I can get you to perform, prove, compare. So it's like programming.
I'll bring up a past trauma, I'll bring up this, I'll bring up that. I'll bring a friend in that'll bring up something. It'll just keep you all like little entanglements that, it's
show you.
The energy field is crazy when you really start to see it.
And I had, I shared this story a while ago. I'm going to share it very briefly because it's it's a bit out there, but I had an experience of feeling super, super free. Like, whoa, in the oneness, like, whoa, walking up the beach with Keith, my mate, going, whoa, we had a long talk and a swim. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I felt this thing go around my head.
Yeah.
And literally this experience was, I went, felt my chest tightened a little bit, felt myself losing my space, this spaciousness that I was expanding into. And I was like, what's that? It came in like black and white. And it was literally a feeling, and it was like, someone was walking on the beach or something, and I had a thought I had to compare myself.
Yeah.
I had the thought to compare. I went, whoa, no. Well, I'm not going to compare myself. Like I picked up on the thought before it got into me.
Yeah.
And I went, what's that? And then another thought came in, you've got to prove yourself. And I went, whoa, what's that? And I'm like, where are these thoughts coming from? Like they were popping into my head, standing on an open beach, no one around, with one mate.
Yeah.
And it was compare, prove, and I don't think it was perform, it was something else similar, like 3 major things. And the third one came in and I was almost ready for it. And as I was ready for it, I had the experience of having a frequency or an energy or a vibration that I would call what it appeared to me like, I had my eyes closed going, what is that thing? It appeared to me like a drone. So that's how it filtered through to me. It was like a thing flying over me going, oh, hey, hang on, he's going free. Plug him back in to his standard. He loves comparing. Pop, compare. And I just popped out enough to go, what? No. And I went, oh. And it was like this entity goes, hang on, prove, he'll prove. He loves proving, prove, and it was compete was the other one.
Compete.
And then, so, look, shit, he didn't compare, he didn't prove. I'll get him with compete. He always loves to compete, and the thought came in, I was like, no. And then I went, I can see you. I had my eyes closed, and Keith, our beautiful friend, was wondering why I just stopped in the middle of the beach and I've got my eyes closed, and I closed his eyes and he goes, you've got like a drone flying above your head. Like,
Whoa.
so this is out there, and
Yes.
you've had plenty of out there guests on there. So,
Yes,
but my
But
experience
whether you
of,
want to see that as a,
Yes.
like a, because you know it's real. But if you want to use it as a
metaphor
a
or
metaphor,
symbol,
yes.
it's either a filter, a
it's-
metaphor, a symbol, or it's real at some level.
Yes.
Whichever one it was, doesn't
either
really
way,
matter.
no, it's
Doesn't
all
really
the
matter.
value is there, and
The essence
experience,
is
yeah.
if something trying to etch itself back into my consciousness in that moment to get me back into competing, performing, and proving. And then, of course, what am I in? I'm in separation.
Yeah.
So what was I in? I was in oneness. What is this programming and this stuff want us in? It wants us in separation. So my feeling is that when the feminine's coming back in on the planet, we're coming from separation back to connection. Because the feminine says, no, is the whole village okay? And the male says, who cares? Did we get that buck, or did we, whatever it is, or am I winning and looking good, So as, and the male can get away with all the things. So all this stuff that the, religions and financial systems and governments and secret banking and all this sort of stuff is doing, is they're getting away with stuff because the feminine's been suppressed for a long, long time. So touched on it last time, is that the witches were all burnt, and at the stake, which stuck a thing in this realm to say, don't speak your truth, don't feel your truth. What was
hide your medicine.
Christ started to love and heal and move around the planet in a loving, unconditional. He was all about unconditional. And what happened was, not only did the Romans want him dead, so did the Jews. At that particular point in time, because they're like, you're going against all this sort of stuff, and he had to stand in the middle of it. So you see all these great figures in compassion and unconditional love, and knowing that they were going to bark up against him at some point in time, but he needed to stand for the message for eternity, not just to stay alive. So anyway, I'm beginning to realise as the females coming through, every single part of us, whether we're women or men, that's hooked to a structure of safety, of reliability, of need you, require you, depend on you. You're always there for me, which is like, Joe, you're there, you're my safe force. Hey, I'm becoming myself. That's very inconvenient. That's really inconvenient, Oh no, all right, that actually exposes my whole racket of I'm more hooked into the system that I've been talking about and pointing out to others than I realise, because my good, beautiful partner, best friend, is going, I'm going to reflect back to you that I'm not there for you in that way anymore, so you can see what you really need to see. So as it's broken open, I've sat with these men, and I'm actually sitting with them, and they're not actually going, yes, they have their hooks that have hooked them to it, but the reason they can't get out of it is because when they're hooked to it, they then become part of the whole group mind of soup of the male dying. So ultimately the message today was about, we have to let go of our hooks to needing to be right, needing to win, needing to be liked, needing to be admired, needing to be understood, needing to have a fixed view or holding an opinion about something. And this is all stuff that was said to me 25 years ago that I'm understanding more fully now. Need to be a somebody, need to have an act, need to, if I don't do this, that, no one will want me. So need to let go of our beliefs and our old mindsets and everything else, because those things, they seemingly allowing us to get what we want, but what's actually happening is a bigger force than our little self is actually getting what it wants, and that is to control us and for us to perpetuate this separation. So then I would show up with Jo with still a bit of separation in me that I need her for something. So she's trying to work out who she is, but I'm not reflecting back to her in that moment, wholeness or oneness. So she has to go find it on her own, which is great anyway.
Which
So,
she is doing anyway, but in a way where there's support and recognition of how amazing that is.
And so these are all steps along the way, and in sacred geometry, or in I know John Velo Melchizedek, he talks about in ancient Egyptian schools that when you follow the chakras up, when they get up from power to heart, it takes a right hand 90-degree turn before it continues up. So it looks like a lightning bolt, right? So it can't go straight up in the same vein up through identity, power, and can't get from there up to the heart. It has to go change, move over, which is male, shift over, get the female, and then up through the female up towards the consciousness connection with all things. And the other way around, it's the female down to the ground, which is the earthing, so it goes both ways. But what I realise is that the yin and yang symbol, if you straighten out the curve, that's why it's curved in the middle.
Yeah.
It's because the male sits underneath and comes up and wraps into the female, and the female sits underneath and expands above, you know. And so there's this, all these, you know, demonstrations that have been playing out to us for a long, long time.
Signs,
That we can't get to freedom from power. You know, that we can't get to a full expansion of who we are from a need to be someone. So we have to shift over, let go of that, and then travel up a new trajectory, which is where we go from separation into oneness and connection. But ultimately, sitting with these men, for any men or women that are sitting out there experiencing it themselves or someone around them, is that what's happening is the reason, the degree to which they're having massive dysfunction is because we're going through a giant shift on the planet. And this is kind of a brutal comment, but not all of them are going to get through. But their spirit's going to be fine. They're contributing, they'll release themselves the best they can. They're contributing to the breakdown of the planet. As it all breaks down, if someone's too hooked to it, if their life support system's too hooked to this male structure on the planet, they might actually cark it, you know, and move on to a different existence, you know. But
because as you say, the anxiety physically creates a lot of stress. I mean, whether they're aware of the anxiety or not, is that whole soul level of everything that's going on. But the anxiety, you know, heart attacks, you know, depression, and you know, all those kind of things, very real expressions of what that resistance is
absolutely,
about.
that is the whole micro and the macro, and the person who's sitting there not understanding what they're going through, is going, how can it be that bad? Can't be that big. That person, just allow the possibility that person is mainlining straight into planetary dysfunction, and the whole planet's dying, the male is dying inside of them. So if they can undo their own identity, they'll be fine. You know,
just that little thing.
You know, if they can't, they might go with it, but they'll still be fine. Now, you know, because the bigger viewpoint is oneness, source, and ultimately we have to be compassionately able to go out and go, okay, not everybody's going to make it. We know that. We know not everybody's going to shift into this level of consciousness alive in the body they're currently in.
Which is okay.
Which is okay. My father is 90.
Yeah.
He's not going to, before he passes, he's not going to suddenly have enlightenment consciously and go, I've seen the whole thing, da-da-da-da.
But he is in his own aspect, because as you say, his
soul is doing
into
exactly
his little child, is doing everything, he's going into his
exactly what he did.
releasing free now.
And he's left behind a legacy of a son, and then grandsons and everything, who are doing their best to take it to the next level of whatever he took, you know. And that's the gift, because it's like we come here knowing that what we take on might take us out, you know. But if we do a really good job, we might be able to come through it. And so we play the game knowing that at the end of it all, from my viewpoint, what I've experienced sitting with people is that we just return to source. Not by the way, we don't return to source as in, I don't know, I'm not an individual anymore. We still have a soul on a journey and experience to express it. So we, still retain knowing and all that. That's what I know and feel and understand from people I've worked with. But so what I'm kind of saying is it's all perfect, but you have to change your perspective and look at it and go, oh, this manic sickness and illness and dysfunction we're going through is mirroring the dysfunction of the whole planet. And so whether we're male or female, we're going through, or someone close to us, it's actually part of something magical and amazing and brilliant and beautiful, and everybody's contributing. You know, if they're if it's dying off inside of them, they're helping transmute the energy. So it's just like, be with them, do the best, you know.
And what you've kind of said is like that, in that true sense of the word, in bridging a relationship with the word trust again, the meaning of trust and surrender, which is a difficult thing for a lot of men to, not feel threatened by, because what does surrender mean to any of us? But to there's that thing, it ain't weak to speak. Tapping into somebody, having conversations like what you were saying, people coming to spend time with you, but feeling into like, well, why am I feeling resistance to my wife? Why am I feeling resistance to my work partner? And going, okay, well then I must be changing. Seeing it as something that is a good thing, not an issue, not a problem. And so where do I go with this? Who do I go to spend time with to, be nurtured.
There's someone out there for everybody. There's something. When the student's ready, the teacher or the teaching appears. When someone's really ready to even alleviate a bit of suffering, you know, someone's ready to help them with it. It's because where your intention goes, energy flows. But I came out super excited the other day and I went, oh my God, Joe. And it's, the male is going through a breakdown so that we can break up with our old self and then break through.
Isn't that amazing?
And it just made so much sense. I was like, I could watch the 3 stages. We're breaking down so we can see I can break up with this, break it all up and break up with my old self, say, oh no, it's not me anymore. Yeah. And then we break through, or we break into, break through or break into who we really are. And that's, and so, yeah, there is absolutely someone out there for everybody who's going, I can help you,
Yeah, it's just listening to, for the females out there, it's exactly the same.
Yes.
There's no, I know we're hearing it from you because you're a male and you've been having that experience and having that around you, but everything you're saying is what the female is going through as well. It's just,
Or even using our good friends, Darren and Jen, Daz and Jen as an example. That they both sit down and listen to your podcast together. They can't wait for it to come on.
Yeah, so beautiful.
And then both of them are like, oh my God. And so Jen's fully on the feminine empowerment. Daz is letting go and they're both going, oh my God, I got so much out of it.
Yeah.
Both sending you messages going, oh, I love you, Jojo. Oh my God, And I see that as an example, because I see that in quite a few different people.
Yeah.
But it's like, so I'm expressing it as the male, so I'm not as arrogant enough to say it's everybody's.
Yes.
But because I'm seeing it clearly, but that's what I said right at the start. It's not helpful to say male, it's more helpful to say that the yang side of us is breaking down.
Yes.
The yang side of us is hooked to all the structures.
Yes.
Because Jo knows she's going through letting go of money stuff, which is the structure and the need for security and all
and
that
provide
to be.
Herself, to contribute to, which we, and
Otherwise I'll drop the provider and Jo becomes the provider.
Yeah.
So the yang hasn't shifted, it's just moved over,
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, the yang is been controlling us for a long time. What we think we need. What we think we need. I need that person, I need that sex, I need that drug or that alcohol or that money or that job or that like on Facebook or whatever it is I think I need, a house, that car, that new hairdo, that shoe, that whatever.
And everything you're describing is that externalizing, and we had one gentleman one of the guys who listens to the podcast, send you a message the other day around something that Kendall of Heart Hive said around that. What she realised and what she helps people realise is that it's not always about not working through things with your partner. It's not that your partner's not right for you. It's about what's inside. It's like the relationship is a part of what's going on for you, but it's also still an external thing. So what's inside
what's it reflecting back?
Yeah, exactly. Like really looking at into that.
Yeah, we're talking about there was a gentleman that said he was so happy to hear that you don't have to leave your partner when you have an awakening.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people do, and sometimes it's not about that, and it's true. Sometimes it's about actually going through the awakening and bringing your partner with you for the ride, for the journey. Opening, giving space, creating,
And it can be, because in the middle of it can feel like you do have to leave, or you can feel like you have to let a person go.
Yes.
And it's like, because that's the confront. You need to be able to confront the party that's holding on, and so you can't be told it's all fine. What happens when you let go of this is that you'll be allowed to be with them. Because it doesn't work. Like, okay, I'll let go then. Well, you don't actually let go. But if it comes up, you have to let go. Would you let go of this person? Then you find the party who goes, yes, I would.
Yeah.
I would, for the greater good, whatever I need to for them, I would be there for them in that way. Yeah. And then that part rises up and you go, well, guess what? You don't have to. And that's the willingness, where you're 100% willing to do something. Quite often you find you don't have to.
Yeah.
100% willing to do all the work, and then you get up from that new, refreshed mindset, and you find out 10 things have fallen into place and something's working itself out.
It's funny because when we were talking about all of this earlier, what came up for me was, and what did come up for me years ago was that I'm not going to let go of this part because it's letting them off the hook. We have blame, or we have people somewhere where we're holding them somewhere, and for us to let go of it means that we'd have to move somewhere, which would create more space. But there's this energy field that sits inside of us too that says, I'm not ready for that yet. You know, if I go there, that means I have to now be letting them off the hook, and I need them to pay a little bit more.
And I might be unsafe because they might do it to me
Yes,
again.
yes.
I'm not letting them know how bad it is.
Yes.
But this energy, this entity inside of us, this thought form, is convincing us that it's really dangerous to let go of this, and it's the opposite.
Yes.
It's like, they'll actually, they'll screw me over
Yeah.
if I let go of this.
More than you can
And
imagine.
and the truth is, the voice is, Eckhart Tolle, every thought has a life force attached to it. This voice has a life force hidden that's the one screwing us over.
Yes.
I'm here for you. Don't let them screw you over,
I'm looking out for you.
And so hang on, and Eckhart says, point the finger back at this voice and go, hang on, I can see you, and the thing will start squirming inside of you because it's convinced us that you need this rule and you need this safety and you need this mechanism. So the only thing surviving from keeping someone in that thing or not forgiving or letting go, the only thing surviving is this entity that's got control of us, this thought form, this drone, this life force, this whatever you want to call it, this entity, this splinter of ourselves.
Pity committee.
Yes.
Well, I'm having a reflection back to when I was like 12, and a boy threw a tennis ball at me, and it hit me in the head, and I was like, wow, you're a jerk, that was really mean, and I'm not going to talk to you again, and all that kind of thing. And then my friend said to me later, oh, he really likes you. And I said, but he threw a tennis ball at me. He said, yeah, he really likes you. And I'm like, I don't understand.
Well, how does that
But this is how do we
discern?
how do we communicate? How do we show feelings? How do we be vulnerable with each other? And the massive program that you're sharing around, which you understand is for all of us, but for me in particular in this time around, I'm weak and I'm failing if I'm vulnerable. If I share with somebody that I'm not coping. Psychology now is an acceptable term, being on medication is an acceptable term. As I said, coming back to what we said earlier, the programs that are running, of how we can lean into this a little bit, but this is where it's okay, and there's that suffocation, that blanket, or that looping around, that continuation of the suffering. What you were sharing with the people that came in and spoke to you on level where it was brutal honesty. That must have been freeing out quite a lot for them. It's had quite an impact. To speak with brutal honesty about love, not making someone wrong. So I guess the end viewpoint is that everything's happening for a reason, and everything's reflecting back. And I think I might have mentioned it the last time, but I had that experience one day walking into Stockland's shopping centre, and I was feeling super clear at the time, and I looked at someone, they smiled at me, and they were straight in front of me, and I could see myself and them and them and me, and I went, wow. And then I could see someone glaring at me over to the side, and I looked over, and I was so open that everybody was looking at me. And I don't know if people have had this experience, but sometimes when you're really out and you're like, phew, everyone turns their head and looks like they just feel your energy moving through something. And nothing to do with the pink flamingo shirt.
That's right. And the togs that I was wearing. Wearing my old race outfit with the pink flamingo shirt. But I looked left, and then I went, and I had this feeling of, that person's a bit different. And then I saw the part that was reflecting, and then I all of a sudden went, oh my God. It was like walking through the House of Mirrors. And when you're in the House of Mirrors at the show, one mirror is looking straight back at you, so it's easy to see your reflection. But then one's twisted slightly, so you can see the back of your head in that mirror. So, no, that's not me, because I've never seen that side of myself. So that person that's often not right in front of you, that you're not loving and going straight towards and going, sweetheart, I love you, This person over here is going, oh, you asshole, or whatever. And that person is reflecting that back of your head that you can't see. And then the other person, you can see the left profile and then the right profile. So the House of Mirrors is actually this crazy experience of seeing yourself in a million different angles, and you can't work out which one's you and which way out. So what an amazing analogy for life, because when we walk through life, the truth is that everybody's reflecting something back to us, but we pick out what they're not.
What we prefer.
I'm not like that, which usually means we are anyway. We can't see it, or we can't see an aspect of it. Oh, I haven't got black hair. So we pick out.
Why would they do things like that?
you're just like them. I'm not female. You know, it's like, no, they're really controlling. I'm not very controlling. Take that back. You know, so it's harder to see the reflections that aren't so direct and straight on that are all around us. And then in the House of Mirrors, what happens is then you can't find your way out. So you have to work out which ones are straight, and you've got to walk towards that, and then an opening happens to the side. So that seems to me like life, is that the idea that we're going for freedom and somebody else isn't, or that we're all independent of each other. The end result is we experience oneness. So we all came to experience this journey of separation so we could find our way back to oneness or connection. And that seems to me to be the root of everything. That's what I'm discovering lately. It's like, for me anyway, I feel like, oh my God, I'm down to the original sin, so to speak. It's the thought that I am something other than this whole thing. You know, so I experience myself as separate, and then in the separation I begin, and all the mirrors start firing up. I begin to compare, compete, prove, you know. And Tucker Carlson's got this beautiful piece where he's talking about, and if anyone doesn't know him, when Joe Rogan had 10 to 11 million podcast listens a week, which was the most listened to person in the world on anything.
Wow.
One day, Amanda.
CNN. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Feminine's going to take over, so why not? You're starting early. You're starting early with the feminine taking over. But the CNN at that time were doing 230,000 views.
Wow.
So 10 million versus 230,000. And Joe Rogan takes ivermectin, and CNN says Joe Rogan's taking horse dewormer, which
and changes the colour of his face.
They change the colour of his
ridiculous.
face and all this sort of stuff. So anyone who hasn't woken up to it yet, what an amazing demonstration to show you how it's all a load of shit. It's all a fabrication, it's just a pantomime and a simulation that's going on to actually get us into a different world of separation.
Yeah, but also the fact that CNN's got 230,000, Joe Rogan's got what, 10 million?
10
did you
million.
say? I mean, you know, the power / space that Joe's holding,
Yes.
compared to the control that CNN is holding
Yeah.
through that very limited.
They're trying to control everything.
Band that they're expressing through is so dominating.
Yeah.
Is it, you know, it's what it's perceived.
Well, that's the new perception. So the control is actually only controlling this many people, and the freedom is actually reaching this many people. So Tucker Carlson was on Fox at the time, and he was at 3 million views of his Fox show. So far in front of any other broadcast show. And then he was questioning everything from the Ukrainian war to, you know, lockdowns and all sorts of different things. So he questioned everything, and Fox had these amazing ratings, and they were clearly going, this is inconvenient but good, but good. And then after a while he questioned, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think he questioned the war, really, was ultimately what it was, and they just got the knock on the door, show's over, it's cancelled. So the most successful show in history. And it was cancelled just like that because he was too close. He was too close over the target, but he knew that. Anyway, he's gone out and done Twitter, which is now X. He's now doing, I saw there was like 10 million views on a Twitter interview that he did. So it's freed him out. So you could say, he spoke the truth and they took him out. No, he spoke the truth. They expressed their control. He went, nah, stuff ya. He jumped out and now he's free. You know, and now Trump's talking about having him in his VP his VP. But anyway, Tucker Carlson talks about Mike Tyson, and he says, everyone told me to interview Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, why me, a thoughtful man exploring the world? Why would I interview Mike Tyson? You know, a thug. And he interviews Mike Tyson, and he said, oh my God, I now know why everybody said. Firstly, he's a very deeply considerate, thoughtful man. He's gone many ayahuasca journeys and all sorts of other stuff, so he's done a lot of
in a few words, he's not weighing himself down.
He's lightening himself, and he's got the lisp when he talks, and he's just a sweethearted man. Anyway, Tucker Carlson said to him, so you seem so beautiful and evolved, and you're shifting, you're changing, and but you know, you're Mike Tyson. When you walk through the street and people see you, there must be some people that want to have a go at you, or you know, take you down or something like that. You know, I know there must be. How do you handle that when it happens? And Mike Tyson says, well, you know, when I think I'm somebody, it really affects me. But when I remember I'm nobody, doesn't mean anything at all. You know, and that's what I'm beginning to realise, is that our whole dysfunction is created on the idea that we're somebody. Even if I'm small, or I was, had an abusive childhood, or I'm rich, or I'm poor, or I'm whatever identity we hold, good, bad, right, or wrong, the moment we have that, we're limited. We're actually not our full expression of ourselves. We've got a construct of who we are, and that simulation or construct of who we are can be controlled by anybody who promises to enhance it. Even if it's enhance it to agree with you that you are the unluckiest person in the world. I'm the unluckiest person in the world. I can see that now. Like, even that's enhancing that for that person, that construct. So ultimately we're all coming to the point where we go, I've got to let go of who I think I am. And who I think I am, and think being the operative word, because we can't be separate without thought. So, and often there's a lack of thought when we reconnect, when we go back to source. So all these programs and all this dysfunction we're going through, it's all just a sign that something's dying off inside of us, including our thoughts and our connection to it and our attachments to it, so that we can reconnect and know ourselves as more than a self.
And the anxiety is a symptom.
It's absolutely a symptom, and so's heartache and depression, and so's anger and revenge, and so's the need to prove ourselves. They're all symptoms. The need to win and succeed, which I've been unraveling for 40 years. The need to win and prove. And then when I free out and I'm walking on the beach and this thing comes and plugs me and go, you need to compete or prove or perform, win. They're all connected.
It is.
But it's all,
It's a constant, and we say this in our podcast a lot, it is a constant, I don't want to say challenge, because even that's a limiting word, but a recognition of, what's happening around us, awareness, to be able to constantly be on the ball too, like to be able to notice, oh wow, that's not me, that's not my thought, that's not me, that's not my thought.
That's
Okay, I feel really good, this feels more like me. And then, oh bang, okay, yep, that's not me, this is not me. It's just a constant awareness and I want to say being on the ball, but I know there's a better word. It's around awareness.
Awareness, and
which keeps us in the present
being
moment
honest
more.
with yourself, isn't it? Where your thoughts wander, and the minute you start thinking,
I'm somebody, or
I'm somebody, or that person doesn't like me, or they must be not very nice, or this or that. Stop.
We're gone.
That's not my thought. That's that's not me. Why am I feeling this? Oh, okay, just breathe for a minute. Stop. Move forward again. That checkpoint. It's constant checkpoint.
It's a checkpoint. I like that.
Even now, while we're talking about it, we're dropping into it. We're dropping into the more of the oneness. Like it's the reflection, like the pure, just being able to see something. Like as you're reflecting on it, you go, oh yeah, it's like really seeing it. And so in the seeing, we lose this experience of separation, and then we start to feel this other, and as Eckhart says, this energy arises, this other dimension of consciousness or whatever arises. But it's actually just stillness, it's peace, it's oneness, it's connection. And it started when you said exactly what you said, that being able to stay aware that, oh, what's that thought? That's not me. As you were doing that, like I was experiencing, like, yeah, that's it. I'm sure people listening were feeling that too. It's like, oh yeah, right. We've got all these layers of separation that we've never investigated or seen or observed, and gone, oh, that's a separation. I become separate, and then I'm less than. But it's what it's trying to say to me. If I don't go do this, I'll be less than. But it's actually, don't do that, because it's always the opposite.
I love thinking of it too. For me, it always helps me to first of all know that it's an energy field. Or a drone is a great way to look at it. Because straight away you separate yourself out from it, so you become the observer.
Well, you can vibrationally sum it up. By me seeing it as a drone, I saw it as something functioning, that had an intention, that seemed to be driven by something else in a bigger thing, that it had its mode of operandi, and had its role and its surveillance or whatever it was doing, and it was summarised in this small space. So I felt myself as a bigger space, and I felt this little thing trying to get me back into the little separation. So whether or not there is actually metaphysical, non-physical, fourth-dimensional drones are not flying around, quite possibly. Hey, be open to these things, but it allows us to summarise something and not shortcut as in we're dodging anything, but to actually go, I can see that. Like we do diagrams and draw stick figures and put crosses on the board and stuff, and people go, I can see it. I can see my lifelong childhood issues, and there's like 7 crosses in a circle on the board, you know. And it's because you can see it. So if we said we can't rely on anything outside of ourselves, we're dismissing the fact that we've decided to have an experience where everything appears to be outside of ourselves. You know, so we're having this experience so that we experience everything outside of ourselves, so we can learn to discern and choose and bounce around and go, is that beautiful thing that Joe said, is that in me? I can feel that, and I can enhance it and welcome it in like watering a garden. And then the thought that Joe said, that's a weed, I could pull that out. You know, so the last thing I wanted to say about this in the sessions I've done recently is I've noticed that when people come all the way back to their original point where they became separate, I can feel the beingness that chose to experience this separation. So the beingness said, yep, I'm going to jump into that dysfunction wholeheartedly. Like I'm going to go watch a movie. I'm not going to go watch the movie and check out how it was directed and see whether I like the way the play was written and time the segments and see what gaps there are in the case. I'm going to go watch the movie and I'm going to believe it's real and I'm going to experience it fully. And the movie takes you away, takes you on a journey. You come out there and you go, oh my God, the hero came through and someone had to die. And you have this experience that's sometimes quite enhancing to watch a movie when you let yourself go. And it's the same sort of realization I'm having, is that we chose to be in this separation, this dysfunction, this sleepiness, to not know about it for as long as we could, so we could experience all of the full colour, all of the horror, so we could discover power from authenticity, ultimately, emotions. After we discovered power from fear and power from anger and revenge. And so then you become a whole embodiment of all the things you've experienced, and then you can just choose and discern, one of Joe's favourite words. You can discern from a place of presence, and you go, oh. So it's like I've got with these people recently, and I'm looking at them and I'm sitting opposite them going, I can feel your beingness sitting right there. And I'm like, oh, okay, well. And then they see the original separation point, and then they connect. And then there's something comes in where they separate again, and they go, hey. And it's okay to experience separation as many more times as you want to as well. Because I believe the ultimate thing is we came to this earth to experience separation, to experience all the things we could so we could reconnect. So if that was our original intention, if we in this lifetime can come back to that intention, and if we're going to separate, choose to do it now consciously, then actually what's happening is we're now playing in the game, around the game, we're not of the game. And we can maintain our ability to be not just co-creators, because we're all co-creating this experience. I'm over here having this experience, Joe's having that. She's going, oh my God, you're having a slightly different experience to me, but we're actually both coming through it. But we're co-creating the experience. But until recently, we were co-creating it, not consciously co-creating it. But probably a little bit more, there's more opportunity for us to consciously co-create what our relationship means to each other and how we can enhance our projection into our full capacity or whatever it is. You know, so that's what we're becoming conscious co-creators. We're losing the separation and coming back to connection. We're losing the idea that I'm an individual and coming back to oneness. And we're losing our needs and coming into how we can be of service. And then finally we're losing the conditional and becoming unconditional. And unconditional simply means I'm not conditioned by my impulses anymore. I'm just here with no conditions. You know, I'm here, I'm observing, I'm not sure where this is taking me, but I'm here. I'm 100% willing, I'm here, you know.
And in awareness and in pure enjoyment of the experiences in a way that is serving self, serving others, in harmony and resonance. One of the things that
just
a lot of women,
life.
such a gift. One of the things that a lot of women that have been on the podcast have shared is how when they've realised how in their masculine they are. And work to get back into more balance, how everything starts happening in their life for them. And it's the same as what you're sharing with all the the men feeling anxiety and struggling with their masculinity, or the masculinity is not working for them anymore. It sounds is kind of the effect.
It's the beginning and the end. Something's got to give, something's got to break up, and it's the structure inside of us. It's who we think we are, all the attachments and everything, and it's got to fall apart.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, we're still separate, because it can't fully connect with you from my ideas. I can fully connect from seeing you. Go, oh, hello. Yeah.
Wow.
One of the and you guys know him really well, Zach Bush at the recent Reconnect weekend for the Farmers Footprint. He literally, I'm pretty sure, hugged 800 people on the day with exactly the same intention and the same energy and awareness of the person he was hugging. It was absolutely beautiful. But one of the things he did say was around that men have that womb space as well, like between the belly button and the dantian basically.
The dantian, yeah.
And was sharing thoughts around that space, around for women's womb space and men being in connection with their womb space as well, which was accepting their inner feminine and the balance between the masculine and feminine. And you literally felt the whole room shift. Like the emotion that was in the room was just delicious. Like men were softened instantly, women rejoiced. It was just gorgeous.
That's the truth. It's not male or female. I think we shared on the last podcast that men have fallopian tubes when they're first born as boys.
Wow.
And that's what becomes the testicles and the whole way it forms and everything else, and then they drop.
Yeah.
So it's going to come outside or it's going to start inside. And so it's a vessel for giving or a vessel for receiving, So it's this beautiful, amazing thing that's happening hidden inside of us. But I guess ultimately what he was saying is that similar to what we've been saying today, is we're coming back to oneness. There is no, even male or female is an identity that we're holding on to, rather than I'm a being. I've had experiences where I remembered my witchy former self, had full conversations and I've sorted that out, It's like, wow, I can remember being a female. Makes sense to me, but it doesn't make sense down here in the world where we're all looking good and everything else. It's like, what craziness are you talking about? It's like, no, we're actually sparks of the whole of life, and we've had many experiences that we tap into. And Joe and I spent some time with Zach, didn't we, the other night? And hung out, just seven or eight of us or whatever, and it was beautiful to touch on many of these things and share some of these stories as well and compare notes. And we're all on the same journey everywhere you go. That's why people relax when they hear these truths, because they know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
And you move in that collective space with a lot of your own personal energies. So again, that magnification of what individuals are feeling in their day-to-day humdrum, coping with the pressures of what life is about these days. When you see people as clients and working with them, and that message that's coming through as a group message, a collective message, and what you yourself are feeling in that collective space. It's why are we resisting? Do you think there's the resistance to letting go of these structures and programs? Is it the fear of, if I do, what's going to happen to me? Like you already kind of said this a few times over, really, around I might lose everything, or who am I?
Yeah, well, as Joe said before, the energy inside of us is the one that's resisting. So we've got the hook to it. So a man I worked with recently, he eventually he said to me, oh, I'm a bit lazy actually. That's why I went on those medication, because I wanted the easy way out. After the whole session, that thing, I said, how do you feel when you say that to me? He goes, I feel a bit freer. It's like, because you came clean.
Beautiful.
So the man comes clean on his hook.
My
hook is actually, I am a bit lazy, I wanted the easy way out. And my whole life I've been looking for the easy way out, which is like find the rip rather than swim across the bank. So I'm like, yep, I understand. So there's a beauty to that, and there's also a trap in it, because you want the easy way out, people can offer it to you. Take this drug, take this thing, sleep with her, sleep with him, do this, do that,
Sleep in the morning instead of get up and see the day start.
So it's the thing inside of us that doesn't, it's the as I said before, I do, and this is what I've realised in the last couple of years, oh my God, when I'm personally freeing myself out, and you pick up on it, is I swim in the collective energies. And what did I always do? I swam in the ocean. I went out, where was I at my best? When I'd left the crowd and I was out there swimming in the ocean, they were going, look at him swimming in the ocean. And I'd come back and I'd go, wow, that's the way he swam in the ocean. And I had no coincidence that years later, spiritually, when I'm being myself, I'm actually swimming in the metaphysical and the quantum of what the planet's going through.
Yeah.
So I have to learn that and go, I do swim in the ocean, and so I pick up on the collectives all the time. And what I can tell you from the collective point of view is, at another level, the collective is forcing us to get all of our shit together and all of our faculties. If it doesn't, it'll kill us.
Yes.
So it's going, I'm either going to kill you, or you're going to work out I'm not real and you're going to free yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play my role, which is to kill you no matter what.
Yeah.
And I hope you free out before you die, because, so there's all these negative energies that we call negative.
Yeah.
At the higher level of the fourth dimension and lower level of fifth dimension, there's still duality, positive and negative, but they don't have a negative connotation anymore because they only exist to teach us the lesson. So the victim thing is that, because all this happening, we're going to free ourselves out and get past these struggles. It's actually just all of it's reflecting.
Yeah.
So why do we not want to look at it? Because part of it, the energy inside of us, is part of the collective unconscious of not wanting to shift. Plus I've got my own little hook. So if I let go of that hook, I might be able to see that collective not wanting to shift. But then ultimately that collective exists to make sure we go free.
Yeah.
So this is, you could
We'll
say,
look at each other
I hope we go free.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I hope we go free. But if you wanted to go really free, you'd make the game as shit as you could, because then you'd have to be a really good player to get out of it.
Yeah.
So the uglier it is and the darker it gets in the next little period of time, the more people will truly go free.
Yeah.
So that's almost like there's a perfection in the whole thing, is that unfortunately it's like we actually at our soul level know we're powerful enough to get through it. And the saying, the universe never gives you a problem without hiding a solution within it, because we're the solution within it. And also the universe never gives you a problem you can't handle. And I'm pretty sure I shared this last time, but Mother Teresa had said, because God never gives you a problem that you can't handle. And she said, well, I wish God didn't have so much faith in me, because I can't handle this, Well, clearly God's got more faith in me than I have. But the truth is, you chose this experience. And this is, so we chose to experience separation. So the first level of consciousness or awareness, it's happening to me. As we rise up through that, we get to the level where, hang on, this is happening for me. I'm getting something from this. It's made me stronger or more resilient. I'm thinking outside the box. And then we rise up and we go, wow, something's happening through me that's part of a whole collective thing here. So what this thing that happened to me is happening for me, is happening through me. Wow, I chose to have this experience. So this is happening by me.
Yeah.
So it's to me, up to for me, up to through me, up to by me. And that's what I feel like we're all going
there's
through.
the oneness, isn't it?
And there's the oneness, because we chose to step away from the oneness to have an experience. And they say God separated himself to experience himself from every aspect. Well, that's what we did too.
Yeah.
Your own godliness chose to separate from the source, the bosom of the mother, or the whatever it is, to come down here and experience this horror, where we've been through all these horrible things, but actually we're powerful enough to get through it. And that's the crazy realization that's beginning, I believe, to come back through the collective consciousness. They can't stop. These little sparks of realization that people are going, oh my God, I can get through this.
Yeah.
Because it's been like, hell are we going to get through this? It's like a collective planetary dying. They're trying to put all these control things on, but there's some sort of spark coming through, and that's why it's amplifying even more, because people are actually waking up and
Enough people
running with it.
tuning in.
I think we're going to have to round it off about
Okay.
there.
Okay.
That sounds pretty perfect. I think it's a great
We should
bit of
start.
information for our listeners to take away with. And
How did you go with the dojo, which is why we're rounding up? Because they came in, just was on us today.
yeah, loving it.
Loving it.
Loving it. Nearly went to sleep a few times.
Why?
Not
Why
went
did
to
I
hear
put you to
what
sleep?
we were saying.
Why
Usually
did
the
you not?
case. Puts me to sleep sometimes, but it's come full circle, and I'm feeling like yes,
Yeah.
I'm hearing it all, and I'm feeling it all, and
Well, it's for everybody, isn't it?
absolutely,
Yeah. it's for
absolutely.
everybody.
I just feel like we're all on the journey.
Yeah.
I feel like we've got things at moments that we want to share. The biggest thing I wanted to share today was people are not their dysfunction. So whether it's you or someone who's close to you, see the person is powerful.
Absolutely.
And even if they can't get through it and you can't work out how to get through it, don't drop into the can't or don't. Stay in the power and just see the person as powerful and go, be curious, observe. I can see what's happening to them. I'm allowing it's happening for them. Looks like it's trying to kill them, but I'm
Mm.
allowing, if they're a spiritual being, it's happening for them, and they are.
Yeah.
And it's definitely happening through them because it's affecting me too. So it's happening. So if I can shift them to me, for me, through me, but we're all decided to have these experiences, and we're all okay at the end of it. And that's a really brutal viewpoint sometimes, but we actually are okay. Our beingness is okay. At the end of it all, the pain's going to go away, and people will be back in the connection, not the separation. But if we can get to the connection in this lifetime, I think that's what a lot of us hope to not only do ourselves, but help bring in for others,
Yeah.
and receive from others and everything else. So when I say that, for me, it feels like I kind of go, you know.
Yeah.
I just, whoever's
Expand.
listening, we're all in it with you. We're all in it together, and none
Yeah.
of us have the answers,
Exactly.
and we all have answers, and we,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep it simple, people.
And don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for
Trev.
having me.
Oh,
I think
thank
we
you for
need to
coming
put
in.
Major Tom ground control on now because it's like
Ground control to Major Tom. We love that scene in.
yeah, and
the-
there's that sentence where, like, you know, about blowing your brains if you know it all, you know.
Yeah.
There's a reason why that energy goes up and then goes up. So because it would blow our brains if it just went straight up through
Yeah.
the heart, it would just boom.
And ground control to Major Tom. Last thing, Joe. 2 scenes that we absolutely love
Movie
is
scenes.
Walter Mitty.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes.
That song's playing while he runs and jumps in the helicopter.
Yeah.
That's
And he
freaking
lets go of
epic.
the story and the illusion. He decides to actually do it.
Yeah.
And the helicopter's the sign, and the guy flying that's drunk, and he's going to go jump into it. Jump in with it.
The music goes glitch
I reckon-
on reality.
Yes.
Instead of an alarm clock, once every month, that scene should wake you up in the morning. You should just put that on and wake and go, oh my God,
I'm ready
just to
play.
remind you. And then the
Yeah.
other one is the 1,000 Planets, the city of the planet of 1,000, city of a thousand, Valerian and the city of 1,000
That's
planets.
a great show.
And right at the
Movie.
start, when Earth has got the space station and all the other intelligences are turning up and they're adding to it, and it turns into this
Oh, it's so
this
beautiful.
planet that floats away,
Yeah.
you know.
And
Yeah.
that's the song, and it's so
With the mixed
beautiful.
population of all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ground control to
Beings.
Major
Yeah.
Tom.
Amazing.
So, you
Check
know,
it
I
out,
just
people.
think hold that vibration, everybody, because
Yeah.
something else is trying to come through, and we do need to accept and receive the other frequencies that are coming in
Yeah,
and take off eventually,
absolutely.
depart the Earth and this heavy frequency we've been stuck in.
Into what's next?
Yeah.
What's next?
No, not you.
Into what's next? So I think you're asking me. I was going to tell you, by the way, what's next.
What is next?
By the way, I've been working on breath and breakthrough retreats, which have been
Yes.
amazing. We're doing male
And,
retreats,
yeah.
occasionally mixed, down in beautiful off-grid property in Victoria with Kane Johnson and Mark Cluer. It's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of this has come from. I forgot to mention that before, that a lot of the male
Mm.
understanding has come from breathing, ice bathing, immersing, plunging, talking, sharing, moving, qigonging with men that have never done any of this stuff before. Some have, some haven't. And the
So-
collective shifts, and
Yeah.
people that have even done thousands of hours of work on themselves, they stuck, and the collective shifts and they shift. So we're all connected to each other. So yeah,
Beautiful.
Those are pretty
I will
funny. So
pop-
they're on your website.
Yeah, I'll pop
and
the website.
on the socials.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll put
Yep.
all that on the bottom of the podcast.
And you can always ask Joe.
Yeah.
and watch our YouTube channel because we're going on more adventures, aren't we, Joe?
Ah.
I love it.
I
You
like,
just
yeah, you
drop
everyone
that
loves
in.
your YouTube channel. They just, people just give
Oh,
the
it's
funny
Yeah, you
so
really want to
funny.
get to know Jo. Watch her when she's out on the rivers, when she's forward driving, when she loses her shit because we get to a really hard obstacle. And so when I now know what I do, is
Oh my
I
god.
just go, why don't you drive?
You go
Like,
off
all right,
road.
then.
You take her off
So
road.
off road is an understatement. We're off track.
Seriously. Yes.
Sometimes we go, there's a tiny track.
And
we,
Trevor always says to me,
There's a train
we're not
there, Joe.
lost.
No,
I
there's
just
not.
don't know where we're going.
we're not lost, I just don't know exactly where we are.
Well, yeah, that's right.
But
The
there's
ground's
always a,
underneath us, the sky's up above
Yes.
us.
there's
We're
always a
fine.
waterfall at the end of the trail. So
Oh,
we've found some
hilarious.
amazing things. So it's worth
Yeah, it's
talking
an
about.
awesome channel.
That's
yeah.
worth a laugh.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
watch it
Trevor.
with your partner.
Watch it with your partner.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Watch it.
Alrighty.
Love
Love
you,
you,
Joe.
girls.
Love you, Trev.
Thank
Love
you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.